Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a very fun Pokemon to use in the Open Grade League, and that is Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite is incredibly glassy in the Open Grade League, but in exchange, it provides monster fast move pressure, and its charge moves hit incredibly hard as well. I tried out a sweeper double tank strategy with Shadow Dragonite on the lead as the sweeper, and Lickitung and Dewgong in the back as the tanks, and was able to go positive with the team at leaderboard elo. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Shadow Dragonite. Dragonite off to a terrible start as it leads into Dewgong. I'm going to throw one Dragon Breath, safe switch into Lickitung, and my opponent is staying in with the Dewgong, so I'm going to strike first, firing off the Body Slam into the Dewgong. Opponent banks a move for later, and they're going to send in Shadow Venusaur. I'm farming up and firing off another Body Slam. Body Slam will deal some very solid chip damage to the Shadow Venusaur. I'm farming up with the Lickitung, and they throw just before I make it to my move. Can I survive the Frenzy Plant here? Yes, I can! Lickitung with the 1 HP clutch, making the Body Slam and winning switch advantage. And that's big, as that means the Shadow Dragonite is no longer going to have to deal with the Dewgong. And thanks to me Body Slamming the Dewgong earlier, their Dewgong already has a pretty serious health disadvantage. I can now mirror, I'm very much behind in terms of energy, but in the back my opponent is going to have Sableye. I fire off the Icy Wind here, I'm looking for some chip damage and a debuff, and I end up getting a shield. And now I can send in the Shadow Dragonite, and I'm going to be shielding here, as even a debuff Foul Play would do monster damage. And now I can farm up 12 Dragon Breaths, and I can go for the Dragon Claw on the CMP Tide to the next Foul Play. This, of course, will be massive overkill. Opponent is going to commit the shield, and their switch timer is not yet up, so they can't send in the Dewgong. So I can shield back, farm down with the Dragonite. In comes the Dewgong, but Shadow Dragonite is the winner of the CMP tie, and Superpower will secure the win. Moving into the next match, hoping to see a better lead this time, leading Shadow Dragonite into Shadow Venusaur. My opponent is going to save switch into Lickitung. I'm going to stay in this matchup and go for the Dragon Claw as soon as I get there. Since switch takes a turn, I can reach the Dragon Claw one turn before the Body Slam, force a shield, and now I can send in my own Licky. The Lickitung mirror is never a fast-paced affair. They're going to fire off Body Slams, I'm going to fire off Body Slams, and my goal is, since our switch clocks are a bit misaligned, to try and have a decent amount of energy. So that way if my opponent sends back in the Venusaur is going to have an incredibly rough day dealing with a bunch of loaded energy. I'm firing off the Body Slam is going to connect onto my opponent's Licky. I continue to farm, and I realize, you know what? I'm at the back-to-back Body Slams here, and I can get the KO. We go for the Body Slam, and we win CMP over our opponent's Licky. Body Slam will get the KO. Opponent is going to send in the Shadow Venusaur, but if Venusaur is trying to farm down, they're in for a very rude awakening, because Lickitung will make another Body Slam. Body Slam will connect, Venusaur firing off the charge move. They are not at the back-to-back here, so I can very safely send in the Dragonite. I'm waiting a little bit, sending in the Dragonite. In the back, it's a Azumarill, and this game is over. I'm going to be going for the Icy Wind first. Icy Wind, of course, is resisted, but it comes with that guaranteed attack debuff, and their charge moves, which already weren't going to do a lot of damage, are now going to do even less. They go for the Play Rough. Dewgong can tank Play Roughs for days now that they have been debuffed. I'm farming up, and again, playing to the CMP tie here, going for the Drill Run. Drill Run will connect onto the Azumarill. Azu firing off another Play Rough, and again, I do not have to shield this. Doesn't do a lot of damage, and I've debuffed it. I farm up, in comes the Venusaur, they get deleted by Dragon Breaths, and the opponent resigns the match. We've seen a lot of Lickitung in these games so far, and on the lead in the next match, we see yet another Lickitung. Lickitung is absolutely everywhere at high elo at the moment. They're firing off the Body Slam. They make it to the Body Slam when I make it to my Dragon Claw. I'm looking to overfarm past the Superpower and then bait with the Dragon Claw here. Superpower would do massive damage, so my opponent will commit the shield. Now I can farm up to the Dragon Claw, switch into the Lickitung, and absorb that energy onto one of the tanks in the back. My opponent now going to send in the Water Gun Lantern. Very, very interesting here. Lantern doesn't have the greatest matchup against Lickitung, but I did take some damage from that Body Slam that I caught. They fire off the Thunderbolt. I'm firing off the Power Whip here, and Power Whip will hit for super effective damage. Not gonna KO, of course, but will get them quite low. I'm gonna farm up just past the Body Slam here, and this should just about KO. Body Slam into the Lantern, barely does not. Opponent able to hang on with a fraction of HP and get the KO. I'm going to be sending the Dugong here as I can get an entire Ice Shard. In the back, my opponent has a Medicham, and that's not great. I was trying to bait out the counter user by catching on the Licky, but my opponent read the team and saved the Medicham, and now I'm in a bit of an uncomfortable position. If they have Dynamic Punch, I lose on the spot. I have to hope this is the Psychic. It's the Psychic. I go for the Drill Run, but it's caught onto Lickitung. I need the perfect undercharge to win. I go for the undercharge. I send in Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite looking for the farm down and gets it. Dragonite at the back-to-back Dragon Claws. The question is, will this be enough to KO the Medi? The Medi is still decently healthy. I'm going for the Dragon Claw. Come on, Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite just cannot KO. And the opponent takes the win with 1 HP. Moving into the next match, looking for a bit of redemption, leading Shadow Dragonite into Pelipper. Opponent save switches into Mandibuzz. I'm going to farm up, switch into the Dugong, and not only do I get the catch, but I timed the catch so that I get an Ice Shard through as I get that catch. So that's incredibly nice for me, as I saved a bunch of energy on the Dragonite, as Dragonite's energy, unless they have something like a Fairy type, is typically going to be extremely useful. I'm able to tank multiple moves on the Dugong, go for the Icy Wind, and now I'm looking for the incredibly aggressive Ice Shard farm down. Mandibuzz fires off the Dark Pulse here. Mandibuzz gonna try and make it to another charge move, but Dugong says no. In comes the Pelipper. I'm gonna bank a ton of energy on my Dugong, and then I'm actually gonna send in the Lickitung here. I'm anticipating that the energy on the Dugong will probably be more useful versus something that isn't the Pelipper. I can use the Lickitung to soak all the energy from the Pelipper, and I have energy stored everywhere. So much energy on the Dragonite and the Dugong, and the opponent concedes the match. We've got some awesome spice from the opponent in the next match as I lead Shadow Dragonite into Haxorus. Opponent is going to save switch into Frostlass, and I have a very nice response available with the Lickitung. They're going to strike first, going for the Avalanche. Avalanche does two-shot after those Powder Snows connect, so my plan is I'm just going to look to shield, overfarm quite a bit, and then go for the Power Whip to get the KO. I'm down a shield, but I'm going to leave with a lot of stored energy, and Body Slam onto a Haxorus is very threatening, as Haxorus in the Great League, much like Dragonite, is extremely glassy. In comes the Haxorus. I'm farming up with the Lickitung, and I'm going for the Body Slam. Body Slam into the Haxorus. Haxorus does commit the shield. I'm making it to another Body Slam here. They're very close to a move. Body Slam connects. I go for the Snipe with the Dragonite, but Haxorus able to hang on with a fraction of HP and make the breaking swipe. I commit the shield in the back. They have Shadow Swampert, and I'm firing off the Dragon Claw before my opponent is able to make the Hydro Cannon. Dragon Claw will be shielded. The question is, with the damage I've taken, is the Shadow Hydro Cannon going to KO? Shadow Hydro Cannon will not KO. Opponent can't get the Mud Shot down, and they resign the match. We see a mirror lead in the next game, Shadow Dragonite versus Shadow Dragonite. I'm going to farm up till just before the move, switch into the Lickitung, and I'm able to successfully snipe my opponent. That's absolutely massive. I am one off a move with my Dragonite, and their Dragonite lost all its energy. I tried to throw in the middle of the counter there when I was recording these battles. Unfortunately, there was a lot of one-turn lag. Here, I decided to call it. My opponent is running Dynamic Punch. I don't get that Dragon Claw. And here, I've basically just lost the game, unfortunately. My Dragonite got much too low. I probably needed to switch out of that lead matchup sooner, save the Dragonite to try and get rid of a Medicham, but a Medicham with Dynamic Punch just is able to put my opponent into much too favorable of a position. In the back, they have Lickitung. I can debuff the Lickitung multiple times, but I'm down a shield. It's really not going to matter. I don't have a realistic way of getting through Lickitung's remaining HP, considering that they have 2 shields left to use. So at this point, I decide I'm not going to waste anyone's time, and I resign the match. Alright, we're looking for a bit of redemption in the next match, leading Shadow Dragonite into Shadow Gligar. I'm farming up with the Dragonite, switching into the Lickitung, and again, utilizing that sweeper and 2-tank strategy of absorbing damage onto the bulkier Pokemon. Gligar staying in this matchup, they farm up a bunch of energy, and we have another Lickitung mirror. Oh boy, this is really not great. Lickitung mirrors, especially at a health disadvantage, I don't really have a way to win this at this point. At least I don't have a way to win the mid game. They go for the power whip. That does quite a bit of damage. I'm firing off the body slam. I'm hoping my switch timer is up so I can send in the Dragonite and go for the superpower, but the switch timer is not up. I send in the Dragonite and they were able to get enough energy to make it to the body slam. I commit the shield. I'm farming up with the Dragonite, and here I just lost count. I'm forced to double shield. They're going to combo play me here with the Gligar, so I just go for the Dragon Claw, anticipating the combo play. This way, at the very least, they're forced to burn one shield. Aerial Ace will easily KO the Shadow Dragonite, but this sets up a nice farm down for the Dugong. Dugong is down a shield, but I'm trusting in Dugong up energy to be able to close this game for me. They will make the Aerial Ace. I am forced to tank that. I have no shields remaining. I did not use my shields particularly well in this match. Are they going to send in the third here? Opponent thinking about it. They send in the Lickitung. I'm looking to massively overfarm with the Dugong and go for the Icy Wind, denying any energy from the Lickitung. Icy Wind will get the KO in the back. It's a Water Gun Lantern, and I immediately make a game-losing mistake. All I had to do in that situation is I can make it to 2 drill runs because they're water gun. I have 2 drill runs and I have a power whip on my Lickitung. So I just win this game if I go for the double drill runs, but my opponent recognized that their only win con was calling a bait, so they call the bait, and now, unfortunately, I cannot win. Power Whip will not KO here, and as we're going to see, I'm not going to be able to make the body slam. So this was a very winnable game, but unfortunately, a bit of operator error on my part, and we end up taking the loss. Moving into the next match, leading Shadow Dragonite into Lantern. We'll have to check the fast move on the Lantern. Opponent is going to save switch into Medicham. I can stay in with the Dragonite, and due to their switch taking 1 turn, I can outpace and make it to the Dragon Claw before they make the Ice Punch. I was anticipating that they were potentially going to throw 3 there and then catch at the last possible second, but they only end up going for 2, so I just go for the shield and the farm down play. So unfortunately, I do not have a shield advantage, but the good news is I still have a pretty healthy Dragonite with a lot of energy. And it's a Water Gun Lantern, so I'm farming up and firing off the Superpower. Superpower will do quite a bit of damage when it lands, which it does, and now I can send in Lickitung, sending in the tank and saving the Shadow Dragonite for later in the match. My opponent will fire off the Thunderbolt into the Lickitung. In the bag, they have Superior, so this is actually a team that I featured on my channel itself. I'm firing off the Body Slam into Superior, and Superior will commit the shield. Superior is a bit scary to deal with here, as Frenzy Plant is going to hit hard into both the Dugong and the Lickitung, and they have Aerial Ace for the Shadow Dragonite. I'm going to let this through. Frenzy Plant will get the KO, and I'm going to be sending in the Dugong. The goal here is just to get the Ice Shard damage onto this Superior, getting it lower and lower to potentially just farm everything down with the Shadow Dragonite. I'm again going to let this go. Opponent goes for the Aerial Ace. They go for another charge. I switch into the Dragonite. Dragonite farms down the Lantern and farms down Superior as well to take the win. Hopping into the final match, now doing some nighttime sets as I lead Shadow Dragonite into Mantine. This matchup definitely depends on what moveset the Mantine is running. Are they running Aerial Ace Bubble Beam, or do we see Ice Beam? Dragon Claw will grab a shield from the Mantine. Mantine does have enough for a potential Ice Beam here. Ice Beam would wipe out basically every Dragonite that has ever existed with the amount of overkill it would do, so I will commit the shield. They're just going straight Aerial Ace here. I decided double shield. I could have potentially caught, but this time I know that I can double shield and farm down and leave with so much energy. And there's a Galarian Stunfisk in the back, and I'm firing off the Superpower here. Superpower is going to connect. I switch into the Lickitung as they fire off the Rock Slide, and as always, we save that Shadow Dragonite and we catch charge moves onto the tanks in the back. In the back, my opponent has Diggersby, and this game is already over. This is not a good matchup for Lickitung, but I know at this point, I have a Superpower loaded on the Shadow Dragonite, and I have Dugong, and my opponent has no way to KO me at this point. They can land the Hyper Beam, that does a lot of damage, and now they're going to go for the Scorching Sands to get rid of the Lickitung before I make another Power Whip. I can send back in the Dugong after I wait the timer a little bit here, and Dugong will be able to tank whatever they throw and go for the Icy Wind. They're firing off the charge move. This is completely fine. They go for the Scorching Sands. I go for the Icy Wind. They make a nice catch onto the Stunfisk, but I'm going to go for a nice undercharge here. So I get the undercharge. I'm going to get some very nice farm with the Dugong, and the opponent concedes the match. All in all, Shadow Dragonite does feel like a pretty solid pick in the current meta. Shadow Dragonite was actually used by Wadaj to win the first regional championship of the season in Pittsburgh, and honestly, it performed pretty well in Go Battle League as well. I was playing very close to the bottom of leaderboard elo, so again, like mid 2600s, and I was able to go slightly positive with the team. Overall, I would say this kind of playstyle definitely relies on precision in terms of knowing counts, in terms of being able to catch onto those tankier mons, and overfarming as much as possible with the Shadow Dragonite, because energy management and being able to catch, save the glassy mon for later are very important when running a Pokemon like Shadow Dragonite. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.